Hi, you are watching another episode of Epic Sketch Time. Epic Sketch Time is an online drawing group. We meet every Monday at 4:30 Pacific Time. If you'd like to join the drawing group, please go to the link below and sign up. You will get a notification usually the weekend before that the event is a go, and then you'll receive an invite in that will link you into a YouTube Hangout, which is how we record these. A message just popped up saying that Hangouts on Air is going away August 1st. For quick streaming, try youtube.com/webcam. I better write that down.
Yeah, that's the next home for Epic Sketch Time, probably.
Well, I'm wondering if they can do the same thing that we're doing here, which is multiple screens doing multiple sharing, because I've yet to find another service that does that.
Yeah.
I mean, Zoom, the folks at Zoom say, oh, yes, you can screen share. But when I say, yes, I know you can screen share, but can each person screen share? Yeah, each person can switch around. I said, no switching. Everyone's showing their own screen at their own time. Oh, I don't know about that. That would be tricky. I never get a straight answer from anybody on that. My name is Mark Monlux. I'm located in Tacoma, Washington. I like to do cartoon reviews of movies. This week I think I'll be working on drawing some aliens. Gentlemen, introduce yourselves.
I am Bill Morse. I'm a cartoonist and illustrator located in Seattle, Washington. And I also do a webcomic called Rhapsodies. And I'm planning on starting Halloween a little early with a little Danse Macabre comic I did a while ago, and now doing a finished color version of it.
And howdy, y'all. I am Ian Castruita. I'm an artist working out of Arizona. You can find my stuff at unfedartist.com. You can also check out all my social media pages and my Patreon at /unfedart, whatever the site is, twitter.com/unfedart. You know the deal. Today I am working on finishing up my comic that I've been coloring and inking over the past few episodes of Epic Sketch Time, and hopefully you'll get this posted today after I finish up. I think I'm pretty close.
Awesome. Oh,
I forget, did I show off my Reservoir Dogs print last week?
No, you were still telling me what you had planned. I never actually saw the execution, though it sounded awesome.
Yeah, you were talking about a Brady Bunch thing, right?
Well, actually,
that was the other guy.
Oh, never mind.
That was Stan Brown was doing the. Ooh, yeesh! What am I doing?
Nice.
Okay, let me change that. Stop presentation.
Oh, wow. That turned out great.
Now, one of the things I'm going to go into, so the black's up at the top.
My only criticism of it is the brown is too close to orange.
Actually, the brown is too close to orange when it's illuminated from behind with light. If you were to look at the CMYK values, it is a perfect brown.
Okay.
The right brown. Hang on. For some reason, my stylus isn't working. I'm going to have to reboot the screen. Which is why I always suggest that people have a CMYK book that shows both their Pantones, both in a Pantone callouts and as a CMYK. And I'm doing a little trick. Okay, great. Now it's working. Yeah, let's try this. So up here in the Reservoir Dogs, the blacks are, this is a rich black. A rich black is made up of, say, 20% of all colors and then black on top. Down here, I'm using just regular black, and let's see. But underneath that regular black, you can see this irregularity.
Yeah.
And that's actually a rich black. So when it prints on this particular laser printer, this will give almost like a varnish effect. And what we have here in the middle is a severed ear with a bunch of splatter going around it.
Clever.
So it'll be a real subliminal touch. I'm hoping that when people look at these fields of constant black, that their eyes should pick up the discrepancy and then try to figure out what it is. And then that will be sort of like the little Easter egg buried in it.
So the printer you're using, you're not actually doing a pop gloss on this or anything like this. You're just using a different kind of black that's going to result in a kind of a variation when it's printed.
Actually, it's not a different color, a different black. It's more of this particular laser printer, when it lays down the colors one at a time. So if you have color that's underneath the black, and the black comes in as a straight K, like up here, it's layering because this is a rich black. It's got like 20%. It's printing 20% yellow, then it's printing 40% cyan, then it's printing 40% magenta. So all of this comes across as nice and rich. And when it overprints on this red, there's no weird variance in the ink. However, down here, because these fields are just black, just a straight K with no richness to them, except where this area is. So this is this color is 20% cyan. No, 20%. Yeah, 20% cyan, about 100% magenta, 100% yellow. So that's going to layer up. I mean, each color is going to layer on top of the other. And then when that black of just goes on top of it, you will see almost like the richness will increase to such an extent that it'll almost look like it's bumped and raised like a light varnish would on a regular print job. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. What kind of printer is this again? It's a LaserJet?
Yeah, it's a LaserJet printer that's through. I'm taking this to Minuteman. Now, if I was to print this on an offset printer, I may not get that type of reaction. But because it all depends on, this is why you really need to know your printer when you take projects to them, and you need to know what type of press you're going on and how it will react to your file. If I had done this inside, say, an Illustrator file, just a straight up AI file or an EPS file, and given it to them, the defaults for that would have changed over, and there would be no rich black coming through in those areas because it treats those EPS files differently than the PDF file that I'm sending to it. I'm sending this out as an old legacy CS4 PDF file. And this is just something that happens with this particular printer when you do that. Or, this particular print, or, this printing machine. That's what happens. But on the whole, I'm pretty happy with the general layout.
Yeah, I hope it turns out the way you need it to. I mean, it's There's definitely a lot of thought that went into this.
I did this in such a hurry.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Yeah, I cranked this out as I actually spent more time working, trying to get all the splatter working just so, and cutting out these pieces so that they would print properly rather than just casually overlapping it than I did putting the design, the original illustration together. Because in the original illustration, I had each of these images, each person was on its own layer so that I could just move and wiggle it around until I could get the placement just right and, layer them up how I wanted them to be. I thought about, switching Mr. Blue with Mr. Brown at one point.
Huh.
But just decided no. And also the three borders on the front are just a hair thicker than the borders on the three guys in the back. So
yeah, I remember when I started coloring with Adobe Photoshop, excuse me. I was using the DC guide to coloring, and it talked about rich blacks in there, and I had always made a point of doing that, but I just never. I was always putting stuff on the internet, and I never got to the point where I was actually printing any of my work, and it just seemed like an extra step. That when I switched over to Clip Studio, I just used the default black for my blacks, but you're reminding me how important it is to do this kind of setup when you think about print. And to be honest, I have no plans for print right now, but it's just one of those things. It's like, oh, you think you're ready to just throw a bunch of images in a layout for a book, and then you're off to the races. But really, you have to go back to all those images and potentially rebuild them all and relayer them all and all that stuff. And so it's not a bad idea to actually kind of do it from the get-go with the anticipation that you might be doing it later on.
When I was doing my deck of playing cards, I started off with a rich black from the beginning, and I wrote down the particular rich black I was going for so that I would, always be able to go and punch in that particular codes, because different people want to have different type of rich blacks depending on which type of printer you go to. Some printers can't handle a heavy layer job. The colors start swimming and getting muddy. For example, if you're doing something on newsprint, you cannot print a rich black on a newsprint. It just swims. The paper chews up, or newsprint absorbs color so much that you actually have to knock color back for newsprint about 20%.
Oh.
I'm doing a lot of rag covers for some computer magazines that were doing web pressing for their front covers as well as their internal covers. And yeah, the reason they were using me other than other people was I knew how to knock back you only need to knock back yellow 13%, but you needed to knock back the cyan at least 20%. Otherwise, you would just get that mud color you get sometimes when you mix a bunch of colors together, and you get that neutral gray. Just ugh.
Oh, that kind of reminds me of, I don't know if either of you are familiar with Barry Windsor Smith's Machine Man miniseries for Marvel.
No.
He did some absolutely beautiful, I really always liked, along with Smith's amazing craftsmanship. I was always impressed by the color job on it. And so when it was reprinted on good paper, it suddenly came off as way too loud and everything. I'm pretty sure that was a reason that the original coloring was deliberately overcompensating for the newsprint.
And Mark, how did you learn about the specifics of like different printers and stuff? I mean, is this all just racked up to experience, or was there like a resource that you had where you're like, oh, you know, this tells me what mixtures work best for which type of print?
Actually, I was taught mixtures back when I was getting my graphic arts degree.
Oh, nice.
And so it's old school training. Plus, you know, it was the one thing that was always drummed into me as a designer was know your printer.
Yeah.
These days, people just, you know, create a file and send it off. They don't even bother to ask. It was also, I have done dozens and dozens of, over the decades, press visits to find out. So I can know, you know, I know the names of certain presses. My favorite press is a Heidelberg. Good old-fashioned Heidelberg press can do a wonderful job. There's a standard 5-run Heidelberg. There's a 7-run Heidelberg, and these are back in the days when you had plates, and the Heidelbergs could handle plates, and their registration would be really spot on. The main reason why a lot of people would do rich blacks is to prevent what's called crescenting, which is where a thin sliver of black would show up along, or rather a thin sliver of white would show up along the edge where two colors are meeting. But if black was one of those colors and it had a little bit of color in it, then that little crescent would go away. So it was a way of foolproofing your material to make sure that it would actually go good if the offset press was bad. And I've had to deal with offset printing that was bad as 2% off, you know, off register. And that's a nightmare, let me tell you. But yeah, knowing your printer and going in and talking to the people and seeing the print and examining underneath the lens what the print can do and asking for samples from the printer ahead of time. I was telling Bill, I'm in the process right now of waiting for a print job to come in from Minuteman Press. It's a one-off. I did a pre-test with them to make sure that they could do it. I'm having them print a black and white image, but instead of black, the image is coming off as a 2% cyan, and it's going to be laminated with some dry erase 3M material so that I can do a video shoot tomorrow. But I checked with them well ahead of time that they could do this, and they said, yeah, well, we can get it done. We can get it done in 3 days. I said, great. And then called them up, and then they were calling me today and saying, oh, we can't do it 3 feet by 6 feet. I mean, what do you mean you can't do it 3 feet by 6 feet? You guys said you could. Well, we only can go up to 27 inches. I was wrong. I said, well, nuts. That's like a foot shorter than what I needed, but I can possibly come in 6 inches on either side for the shoot. But I would have really liked to have had all that space because it allows for the cameras to pan out wider. I may not need all that space, but I wanted it. So now they're running it up to Kent to have it laminated up there. So even when you've talked to your printers and you think you had everything sorted out, something, a wrench can still go in the works. So what I'm going to do is after I get off the phone with you guys at 5:30, I'm going to call them up, see if the guy has come in from Kent. If not, they'll have to hand over the 27-inch version for me to do my photo shoot with, because I got to do this photo shoot first thing in the morning.
I didn't realize that you did photo shoots. Is this part
of your storyboarding for the photographer friend?
Oh, is that what it is? Storyboarding?
This is whiteboard videos.
Oh.
So where your hand is drawing on a whiteboard.
Yeah.
And there is a technique where you can draw a lot more images if you do it on a faux whiteboard. If you have a really thin line and that line is a 2% cyan and you've been tanning your right hand so it doesn't bleed out and using a lot of lotion, what you do is you have your photographer burn the levels so that on screen the blue disappears. So what you do is rather than having to work the illustration freehand, you're just tracing what you've already drawn.
Oh, okay.
So it allows you to do multiple panels. Like normally, if I'm freehanding in this situation, eight panels is about all you can get in the day because you have to draw each panel multiple times in case you draw something wrong or the perspective's off a little bit. You said, I'm sorry, it's off center. I'm going to have to redraw this. And you go back and you have to spend another hour redoing an image. This way, because you're tracing, you can easily do an image every 20 minutes and then do it slowly enough. And by slowly, I mean draw a line, drop your hand out of the shot, bring your hand back out, draw another line, drop your hand out of the shot. That allows you to do, instead of having your hand constantly up there, just moving really, really fast, you can have the image actually look like it's building itself because your hand's outside of the shot. So by doing it, there's just a bunch of different tricks I've learned over the years on how to do whiteboard videos, and it's always a fun experience. But this is going to make it fairly easy and fun to do tomorrow. I'm just really nervous because unless I have that laminated print ready to go, we'll have to push the shoot date, and I really don't want to do that. What are you doing professionally, Ian? Keeping you busy?
Just my regular client. I've been doing a lot of page layout for it's like a 300 some odd page reference book. I mean, it's not very exciting, but it's paying the bills. I don't know, just dealing with a lot of reformatting and adjustments and just like little tiny nudges here and there. But the client is basically letting me do some of the copy editing too. So they're like, oh yeah, we need to standardize this form of abbreviation and stuff like that. So like I said, it's kind of boring stuff, but it's paying the bills. And other than that, I'm still just trying to find new clients that are specific to illustration. Like it seems like a lot of the work that I come across is just graphic design, like logo builds and stuff, which I don't mind. In fact, I just did a logo for my brother's new company, and helped him out with like some of the preliminary branding, like business cards and like what a mock website would look like and all that stuff. But I kind of keep on thinking to like what I really admire and what I'd really want to be doing, for the next some odd years. And it's always come down to like, oh, I want to do cartooning. I want to do illustration. I want to do some, cool stuff that I want to, just get really excited about. And, that's the type of client that I'm trying to look for. So we'll see how it goes. It gets to the point where you're like, well, beggars can't be choosers, right? Like I need to start finding some clients and start paying off things. But I'm kind of in a stable place right now. I need to be a little bit more aggressive about my strategy, I guess, when it comes to marketing myself and also just landing new clients. So I'm thinking a lot about that lately. Did I lose you guys? Are you there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, you didn't lose us.
It's like everybody went to sleep when Ian talks. So it's okay.
I'm just flipping through some of my alien heads here, trying to decide.
Oh, that one's interesting.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's too obscure though, because I'm trying to think of which of these I can grab and make into an enamel pin.
And perhaps too complex for the same reason. It was reminding me a little bit of some of the stuff that Adam Warren does.
How did the Capitol build-in spaceship pin turn out?
I'm putting that on the back burner for a little bit because I'm realizing I need to reduce the amount of detail to it. It still has too much detail in order to be a relatively inexpensive pin.
Yeah, I'm surprised at how quickly you can go through some projects, and yet that thing's been on your back burner for a while.
I've run it like 3 times. Now, here's an alien I would love to do as a pin, but nobody knows about it. But the thing is, everybody should know about this movie. This is called It, the Creature from Beyond Space.
Only seeing the Reservoir Dogs image here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hang on. There we go. So this is a 1950s film. This is the movie that pretty much started off the space alien in a rubber suit scenario. And James Cameron actually refers to this as the inspiration behind the movie Alien. You're basically a bunch of people stuck on a spaceship. There's this alien rampaging. It even ends the same way, with them opening up the door, the airlock to suckle the air out, and it suffocates. Because of course, getting sucked into space isn't good enough. It would have been great if it just been sucked into space, but. But it was a pretty good horror movie, but it's, nobody remembers it.
I think I might have read an article about it, but the article, if I remember correctly, was pretty much going on and on about they thought it was a Alien ripoff, even though it was before that.
I'm looking at the green slime. That's interesting.
I remember when I was taking my science fiction creative writing class, the professor told me that, of course I forget the name, but the Star Trek series was supposedly inspired by a book called Voyage of the Space Beagle.
I know of that book mostly through what's his name, that illustrator, Nguyen. Oh, I hate it when I forget names. Barlow, Barlow's Aliens, where at least 2 of the critters from that one were listed.
Yeah, I mean, it's the reason I bring it up is Mark was talking about the inspiration for Aliens, and it's kind of cool to find like those old school references that, even though whatever it inspired is probably the main reason you're even looking it up in the first place, it's still kind of cool to know about it.
Nice to know, considering I generally kept hearing most of the articles about it. I've always kept describing it as a space wagon trained through the stars or something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So here's a fairly popular alien. I'm thinking if I can.
Oh, the mutant from This Island Earth? I thought he was one of the classics.
He is one of the classics, but I'm thinking about doing this as a pin. So
if you just do the head, I think that would work pretty well.
Well, I'm going to have to get rid of all the. Okay, it had all this webbing around its front eyes, but I'm going to have to get rid of that in order for it to do the enamel pin, because this thing's going to be like only 2 inches tall. But I do like that it's not centered. I like that it's, slightly. So I think I'll take this and make a simpler version of it. I'll just save this as a template.
How many pins have you created now, Mark?
Only one. I'm doing designs. Let's see. I made a design for They Live.
Right.
And I want to have at least 7 done up for the Kickstarter series. So I'm trying to figure out which other aliens to choose from. And it's a fine line of, I love doing obscure aliens, but, people are only going to go for the more familiar looking ones. Like if I don't do a xenomorph alien, people will be really.
Have you considered either of the Martians from the original version of Invasion from Mars?
Well, the guy in the bubble would probably make a pretty good pin, but he's also kind of dull looking.
Mm-hmm.
He's just a face with a big brain and a couple little tentacles.
Right.
Recognizable, but.
And the warrior one looks pretty much like a big guy in snow goggles.
Right, and if I'm going to do a big guy with eyes, I might just as well do the killers. But, which are basically this guys in leotards with big bulgy eyes, big bulgy eyebrows. And so I'm thinking about doing the, pardon me, it's called the Killers from Space. And that's, let me pull that one open. Well, first I kind of finish saving this. What are you working on, Bill?
This is a comic I did for Dune a while back called Bonnie and the Danse Macabre.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You said that already. My apologies.
And so anyway, I'm pretty much working from a scan of the original and cleaning it up as I go along. And so far, I'm mostly happy with it. I'm sort of thinking about what, I mean, the drawing's mostly straightforward. At the moment, I'm thinking about how I'm going to color it. At the moment, I'm thinking blue monochrome.
So if Hangouts is going away next month, does that mean next week would be the last Google Hangouts Epic Sketch Time?
Well, I'm going to have to do some experimentation. But yeah, it's quite possible that next week will be the last Hangout until I can figure out something new, which would be a shame. Now here's a design that I would love to do as a pin. Let me pull it up.
Hmm.
This is I Married a Monster.
Yeah, I saw that last Halloween. I was surprised. I was actually pleasantly surprised how good it was.
I'm just trying to figure out where would I end the edge of the pin, you know.
Maybe if you did my
I,
guess would be ending it with the hands and have the hands sort of doing the foreshortening thing where.
no, I would get rid of I'm pretty much just sticking to the heads because of everything has to be simplified down, 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 down.
Mm-hmm.
So if I went in and came down the strand here and severed this, cut that up, got this, wiggled it over, and just did this weird. It's weird because it doesn't really have a neck. It's got like a bunch of stalks holding its brain up.
Mm-hmm.
That's you. Ah, yeah, here we go. This is the invasion of the Saucermen.
Oh yeah, that one would work as just the head.
Yeah.
And it's also a case of even if people don't know the movie, they recognize the monster. It's in enough of the sci-fi textbooks.
So the movie I saw this Friday, which I'm sure neither one of you have seen, is an old the 70s horror film called Eaten Alive.
Huh, okay. Well, as far as my movie viewing, I went as far as schlocky as humanly possible.
Oh, what was your schlocky thing?
Ever hear of a Japanese film called The Calamari Wrestler?
Oh God, no, I haven't.
It is wonderfully stupid, but it has so much heart. Essentially, it's a film about a pro wrestling squid with costumes that look like rejects from a kaiju film. And I'm in the middle of a British comedy called Crust, and the theme is underwater sports.
What guides these film adventures that you go on? Do you just kind of like have a spinner with categories on it, and
I
you
try to
roll, or
sort of theme because it gives it a little more thing, and the whole point is to get myself out of my comfort zone. And every now and again, this time I was having a total I was having a total mental block about what to get before Scarecrow closed, because I was having a fairly busy Wednesday, and so I just Googled super obscure subgenres.
And what is your comfort zone? Because you two are probably the most adventurous like film buffs I've ever
Bill
known.
likes the more esoteric, enlightened, like William Shakespeare themed movies, and
Oh, really?
You make me sound like a snob when you say that.
And I'm saying that's your comfort zone. And my films are old grindhouse 70s schlock. And I just enjoy those films. Okay, so here on the screen is some shots of calamari wrestler. Bill, this looks like something I would normally be watching.
Okay.
What is that? Is that him training with the the squid?
That's the shot I think it is. It's actually from the beginning of the movie where he takes that guy's belt, but he does train with him later on in the film.
Oh, is this a love interest?
Yes, it
looks
is.
like he's helping someone go shopping.
What in the world?
You have to watch it for any of it to make sense. Trust me.
I just love the Rocky inspired jogging scene. I mean, I could hear "Eye of the Tiger" as I look at the photo.
Let's get a better. Oh yeah, there we go.
That's awesome.
Oh, here he is with the
his group. Yeah.
Okay. So what's this? Oh, figurines.
Nice.
Because that's a little Lucky Charm that goes with it.
Now he has like laced up boots.
Yeah, yes, he does.
His tentacles go in there, I'm guessing, or
I can only assume that those two tentacles look like feet.
Well, those are the little. Well, no.
It's one of those movies where it's best not to ask questions.
Bill, explain this scene, because it's obviously not a squid. It looks like it might be a beetle or a dragon, or what is that?
That does not look like part of the movie, because the only monsters in it were a squid, an octopus, and a kind of shrimp.
Okay, here he is taking on the octopus.
And the boxing shrimp that I mentioned was directly above what you were just selecting.
Okay, I'm kind of curious. What is this? Some sort of interview scene?
I think that was him negotiating with the wrestling producers.
Action packed, I guess.
As I said, it only makes sense if you watch it, and even then, it's like.
Well, thank you, Bill. You have I am greatly in awe of what you went out for this last time. That's So I think I could make this one into a fairly recognizable and pin.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's almost just a challenge to see whether it's almost a game to see whether Scarecrow has it or not. I've only been disappointed about 3 times.
Now, I would really like to do Zontar, the thing from Venus, as a pin, but no one has seen this movie.
I think I've only ever seen your reference photo.
Which, by the way, I made this guy look 3,000 times better than the reference photo. Let's see if I can show you guys what Zontar really looks like here. It's possibly one of the worst alien. Let's see. Okay. This is what Zontar looks like in the movie.
You use that for reference?
With that lighting, I'm surprised you were able to find get any detail from it at all.
There's also this one, but yeah, it was really, really rough going trying to get even the publicity shots are really bad. So. And then this artwork was an artist's rendering of what he thought Zontar was. So once I saw that, I realized, oh, well, here's another artist's reference. And I thought, hey, if everyone's just going to go draw something 3-headed with fangs, I can draw something like that.
It sounds like a lot of these guys sort of considered it a challenge.
Here's another illustrator's view of what he looked like. But I'm kind of wondering where this Zontar, I don't even know if that's from the same movie. It doesn't look like it. But it says
2 eyes by the look of it.
Yeah, so I'm kind of wondering what horror movie that one's actually from, unless it's like a henchman that I forgot about in the movie, which is completely plausible because so many of these movies are completely forgettable. Oh, here's another artist rendering of Zontar. He didn't even bother to draw any type of pupils whatsoever inside the eyes.
You know, is there a like an online forum or like a Reddit sub page or something where people like just submit their drawings of like obscure things?
Quite likely.
I wonder if there is or not. That'd be fun to find out. I do know that there are some Facebook groups that I belong to, like Vintage Sleaze and Horror Everything. And it's amazing what people will dredge up and post. And suddenly I'm kind of going, whoa, I totally forgot about that one. How could I forget about, well, no, I could completely forget about that one. But how could I, overlook that rotten gem? So,
yeah, I mean, we're talking about stuff you only remember because it was on Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yeah. Well, for people like me, that's how you find out about it to begin with.
So, Bill, what are you contemplating for movies this week? Or what do you have? I mean, if that was one of your movies, what was the other one?
The other one was a British comedy called Crust, which I'm in the middle of.
Yeah, that's right. You told us that. Sorry. Yeah.
And so this one involves a giant boxing shrimp. And the
Are you just like doing a film series of like sea life that go into martial arts or something? Like
yes, exactly.
what?
Well, he likes to have double features that are themed. You can completely understand that now, can't you?
I can, but how you find these themes is
As I said, I Googled obscure subgenres.
yeah.
Also, Scarecrow Video is one of those rare video places that still exists. And the reason it exists is because they carry or have in their archives stuff you cannot find streaming or anywhere else.
I literally have only failed 3 times with something I was looking for. And generally they were stuff like the latest Indian ripoff of something.
So you Googled obscure genres and you found a genre called sea life martial arts or something, or
They called it underwater sports.
underwater sports. Okay.
And there were only 3 on their list, of which I only found 2. And yeah, the only one that the one that I've been looking for is one that's called Feather Fairy or something like that. It's one of those ones that I've been utterly curious about. For the longest time, I thought it was a Spanish movie, though I admit that the only reason I thought that was because the one time I saw it was in a hotel in Madrid. When I looked it up, it turned out to be Czechoslovakian, or was it Hungarian? But either way, having found the information, Scarecrow didn't have it.
Now, one Scarecrow, by the way, has both VHS and DVDs, and they're really rare VHSs. You can only check out if you put down like a deposit of $250 because these VHSs are completely out of print. And if your machine eats it, they need to be compensated. The more obscure and rare it is, the more you have to put down.
Mm-hmm.
Do they back up their stuff, or do you just walk out with the only copy?
You walk out with the only copy, I think, because
That's crazy.
it's illegal to make copies. You know, they're a video store; they have to abide by the laws like everybody else.
Yeah, the only time I ever did the deposit was to watch Sleuth. But it was worth it, since that's the only time, because essentially Michael Caine and Laurence Olivier together.
Was that on a VHS or a DVD?
VHS. This was about 10 years ago.
Is it possible they have the last copies of anything? Like,
oh yes, very possible.
See, that seems like a shame. Like, you should be able to back that type of stuff up.
And with something like Sleuth, I'm sure there's a DVD version of it now, because that one's a.
And of course, they don't keep anything out on the shelves. What you have out on the shelves are, boxes. What they do is they have you've seen like the Library of Congress bookshelves where the bookshelves are actually all crunched together, and you have to, in order to access them, you have to wheel them forward so that you get a little walking gap. That's the only way they can manage to store all these things.
Yeah.
Let's see. I gotta make these veins as simple as possible. Now, Ian,
Mm.
kind of curious. Do you subscribe to any video services? Are you a Netflix guy? What are you?
Yeah, so I have Netflix, and I think my one vice. Well, I'm sure I have more, but like my habit is kind of trolling the iTunes store for movies because they typically have these like sales of films for like $4.99, and so I have about, I don't know, 180 movies in my iTunes library, but I like buying digitally because iTunes, hopefully they keep doing it, but so far every time there's been like a resolution upgrade, like from DVD to Blu-ray or something, and it, instead of 720p, it's suddenly like 1080p or something.
Mhm.
They just say, hey, it's either free, or if you pay us like 20 cents per movie in your collection, we'll automatically upgrade your collection.
Uh,
It's just like, I used to love buying DVDs and Blu-ray and all that stuff, but it's so convenient to do that now, and plus I don't have any space, for a collection like I used to. But yeah, my thing is just checking out what's on iTunes. I was really tempted the other day to get that They'll Live, because that's like I think that's $9 right now, or it's like even cheaper. It's like $7.
yeah, the extent of my film collecting is Scarecrow from Scarecrow these days.
What was the movie that was only like $9? You said.
They Live.
Oh, They Live. Oh,
Yeah.
I have not seen that one since it came out.
Yeah, the only reason I was looking at it was because you were working on your pin. But yeah, I mean, I used to just buy movies just to add to my collection, and then I started having like a bunch that I haven't even watched yet, and so that got old, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to buy more until I actually watch the ones that I have, and now I'm just kind of like rounding out the collection with like things that I remember from my past. Like I just picked up not Bill and Ted, Wayne's World, because it was on sale, and I was like, oh, yeah, I won a lip sync contest doing the Bohemian Rhapsody, so I have to get Wayne's World. I mean, that's the only reason I know about that song. But
Yeah. Oh, speaking of Bohemian Rhapsody, everybody's seen Good Omens.
no, that's on Amazon, right? Amazon Prime.
Oh, Good Omens is wonderful.
I was very pleasantly surprised. One of the better adaptations I've seen. I mean, I can nitpick with some of the favorite scenes being them dropping some of my favorite scenes, but so it goes. But the way they improved on some of the other scenes made up for it.
I bought the book with the intention of reading that first, but maybe I should check out the series. I don't know.
It's weird. I don't know how much.
I think that you'll find them as two separate experiences.
Yeah, I'd say so too. Because, I mean, one of the things I frequently find is that, at least as far as the humor in the book is very 80s and very British, and there's a few of the best jokes require footnotes. I mean, for example, the shtick with a queen is based on a line of cassette tapes that were so mass produced in Britain that a lot of Brits were using them as blank tapes, and thus the joke about all cassettes being Queen's tapes in the car after a certain amount of time because people bought them at a gas station just to have a tape.
Huh.
And the joke about Milton Keynes, which they didn't have in the movie, which at the moment I think is the funniest joke in the entire book, is one where no non-Brit is going to get it without having it being explained to them. I know this because I had to have it explained to me. and the edition that I read has a footnote.
Huh. Yeah, well, I got the audiobook. I don't think I'm going to get any footnotes on that. But
Yeah, and if it's the same audiobook, the guy who does the voices pretty much channels both of the characters. I almost like, even with the talent that's doing Crowley and Aziraphale in the show, I still like this guy better.
Well, it sounds like that's the buzzer, huh?
Yep, and Mark has a deadline, so probably.
Yeah, I need to I need to sign off. So I'm just going to save this file. So you have been watching another episode of Epic Sketch Time. Hopefully we will be back here next week. And hopefully the week after that, I will keep you guys abreast. I'll see what I can do about doing some research for the quick streaming. I'll check out the whole webcam situation. But thank you guys, and I'll see you next week.
You all have
All right.
a good one.
Take care, everybody.
All right.